What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over the mobility items in Fortnite Chapter 6, what I think of them, and which ones I think are best. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, and comment down below which mobility item is your favorite in Chapter 6, or how you would rank them. The first we're going to start off with is the one that I think is just the best, and that's going to be the Void Mask. With this mask, you throw a void ball and then have the ability to teleport where that ball is. You do need to be within 180 meters of where your void ball is or it disappears. But to my knowledge, there's not a time cooldown. As long as you're within range of it, it stays there. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't consider. I feel like people mostly use this as just like I throw the ball and then I teleport. But you can kind of use it to set up escape routes for yourself if you know you're about to push into something. Or, just have that option there at all times. There is a cooldown after you teleport to being able to throw another void ball though, and that does make it, somewhat limiting or not as like spammable. When you do teleport, you are immune to fall damage, and you don't need to wait until your ball actually reaches its destination before you teleport to it. Once it's left your character, you can teleport to it, so you can use this to kind of end up where it is when you teleport. So like sometimes I'll just throw it like pretty high up and past where I actually want to go, and then teleport once it's kind of where I want to drop down at, if I want to like drop down on somebody, or if you're, in a bad situation, you need to just throw it and dip. You might not have the luxury of waiting for the ball to actually reach where it's going to go. So you can actually, teleport when it's in the air still traveling. You don't have to wait until it actually is landed. And so this isn't a bad mobility item. I think it's incredibly good, but it is somewhat limiting in terms of like if you need to get out of a situation. If someone's pressuring you and you have to throw the ball and then kind of wait as it travels to, be a decent distance away from the person that's pushing you, you can get eliminated sometimes. I feel like it's not the best at just like resetting a fight or getting it out of a bad situation, but it is very good. You do need to be careful of swapping weapons after hitting teleport though, because if you do this too quickly, you can actually cancel your teleport and then just go nowhere, and that can really grief you if you're in one of those moments. Like I said, if you're trying to get away from somebody. If I am pushing somebody with the void ball though, I do try to throw it so that I'll have a piece of cover between me and them. A lot of times with shockwaves, you'll just shockwave right onto the person, and if you try to do that with the void ball, you can get things like you can get the tables turned on you pretty easily, because enemies can just wait and look at your void ball and be ready for you to come through and then just shoot you right away. And you can also use this to your advantage. If another player is pushing you with the mask or trying to escape you with the mask, you can just look at where their portal lands, wait for them to come through, and then shoot them right away. And because of that cooldown, like we talked about, if somebody is using this as their main or only form of mobility, if they come through the portal and you're just beaming them, they're probably just going to lose because they might not have another mobility item to get out of there. And if I am trying to escape a player who's chasing me with this ball, like I said, you can't just, throw it and you're gone. You have to throw it and then wait a little bit for it to actually travel away from the person. I like to kind of throw it one direction and then go another completely different direction, so that hopefully they chase me and then I teleport to that void ball, and then I'm just in a completely different spot, and hopefully they have lost me. If you throw it and then teleport right away, a lot of people are going to have an easier time chasing you. But I do think the void ball is incredible. It just, you do have to be careful with it sometimes, and I feel like it's not the greatest at just like getting out of a bad situation. Another mobility item that's good but also not the greatest at getting out of a bad situation is going to be the Typhoon blade katana. This allows you to sprint faster and use less stamina while sprinting if you have this out. And it also gives you a pretty nice jump. If you double jump with it, you kind of go decently far. In general though, I'm not a huge fan of mobility items that go off your stamina, because like I just stay running out of stamina. And if you run out of stamina in a bad situation, like that can really, cost you the game, or, maybe allow an enemy to get away. If you beam somebody but you're low on stamina and then you want to push them with this katana, and you just don't have the stamina to get there, like that person has time to get away in a way that they wouldn't if your mobility item was something like shockwaves or the void ball, jetpack from the past. When an item doesn't go off your stamina and you can just use it freely, I feel like that makes it better for those situations. And then the same is true of like getting out of a bad situation. If you're using your katana to like run and jump around the map and travel around, and then somebody gets timing on you and hits you with this AR, and you're out of stamina now, you're just dead probably, unless you have another mobility item. So like while the katana is good, I feel like I have a lower opinion on this than a lot of other people. A lot of people seem to love this, and it is a good mobility item, but I feel like it's not the greatest mobility item in the game right now by any means. I feel like it's just a decent traveling mobility item, and in general, I'm not the biggest fan of traveling mobility items. They're good, but I prefer the items that allow me to like push enemies, reset fights, get out of bad situations. That's really what I like prioritize in my mobility item. And with how dominant the spray weapons are this season, I feel like just running out in the open with something like the katana, or even jumping at people with something like the katana, you're like very susceptible to just getting beamed by somebody who has like decent aim. So I think the katana is good, but my opinion on it is kind of lower than a lot of the community, it seems. Shockwaves are also in the game, and shockwaves are just always a top tier mobility item in my opinion. This is where like, you know, my bias comes in, because shockwaves are one of my favorite mobility items of all time. So I feel like a lot of people are kind of overrating the katana right now and, you know, underrating shockwaves. But I feel like shockwaves are just still the best mobility item for pushing an enemy or escaping an enemy. The void ball works great for this too, but the fact that shockwaves, you could just throw it and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about, you know, the ball traveling or having a path for the ball to travel. Because if you go into a building and somebody's camping in there and they hit you good, but you get around the corner, with shockwaves, you could just throw it and get out of there because it breaks you through the building, you know? But with something like the katana or the void ball, you're probably not going to be able to get out of that situation. In terrible circumstances, I feel like shockwaves are just the best mobility item in Fortnite. And that really hasn't changed at all this season, in my opinion. There's also just so many little things you can do with them, like shockwaving enemies out from behind cover, out of bushes. If you know somebody's in a building, you can shockwave through the wall. There's just so many options you have with shockwaves, and I feel like they're still incredibly good, but people are kind of underrating them right now just because I feel like it's just because the other items are newer. So I don't think you always need to just, you know, run Void Mask Katana. I think shockwaves are still good. The downside really is just finding them, and they aren't as spammable as the other mobility items because it's a one-time use thing. You know, if you have a Void Mask, you have 15 uses. If you have a katana, you can kind of sprint, jump around a lot, and just get a lot of movement out of that item. But I feel like shockwaves are just incredible in pivotal moments. It just, you know, it comes with the downside of, you know, you need to find enough to make it worthwhile. And so it's not perfect, but it's still one of the better mobility items in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of sleeping on them right now. The air or wind sprites can also be used as mobility. You kind of throw it down and then it lets you redeploy and fly. I feel like this is a decent traveling mobility, but again, it's not really something I want to carry and dedicate an inventory slot to. I feel like you don't really get that far off the gliding. And if you're trying to use this to push somebody, you're very beamable. And again, the spray weapons are insane this season. And then if you're just trying to use it to travel around the map, I feel like it's kind of the same case where like if someone gets timing on you and gets to beam you while you're in the air, you might just lose the game because of how insane these spray weapons are. So air sprite is good, I guess, but it's not really something I want to carry. I feel like the best kind of part of the air sprite would be in team game modes because you could use it to, you know, move your entire team. But in solos, it's not really something I want to use at all. The final thing we're going to talk about is going to be cars, because I didn't really use cars in Fortnite before Chapter 5, but when Chapter 5 came out and we had like the Reaper sniper, that was incredible. I felt like cars were just very good to kind of limit how exposed you were to the sniper when traveling around the map. And then also just having a constant piece of cover to play off of. And I feel like the same is true this season with how just insane the ARs are. Because if somebody catches you off for like half a second with these ARs, if their aim is good, you literally might just be back in the lobby already. Like these ARs are some of the best we've ever had. So reducing the amount of time you're exposed, I think is good. And that's why I really like having cars this season. And I feel like this is going to be another season where playing off cars is just going to be very important, just to limit how likely you are to get in those like bad timing situations and just get beamed by the AR. You can still get beamed when you're in the car. It's just, you know, a little more inconvenient for that person. You do have a little more protection. And that can be the difference maker in those situations. The ARs are insane, so I'd recommend using cars as much as you can. And I feel like that's why I kind of don't have the highest opinion of just the traveling mobility. Like, I don't want to use an air sprite to travel or the katana to just travel all around the map when I could use a car, get there probably just as fast, if not faster. Don't use an inventory slot for that. And then also be protected versus those ARs. So I think cars are incredible this season, just like how they were in Chapter 5. My ideal mobility this season, if I had to rank them, it would be the Void Mask and Shockwaves are both S tier. If, you know, finding the items weren't a problem, like in an ideal world, I would like to have the mythic void mask and then 6 shockwaves. That's what I would like to have. A lot of times that isn't going to happen though, and that's why I still use the katana a lot, even though I think shockwaves are better, because you find one katana and then you're good to go for most of the game. It does eventually degrade and break, but if you eliminate someone who drops a katana, you could just pick it back up and it'll be full and you'll be good to go. So I feel like the katana is nice that it's like a one and done item. And then the void mask is kind of the same way. It has 15 uses, but that's a very good amount. For some reason, the mask doesn't refresh when you pick it up off somebody. But either way, my ideal is void mask shockwaves. A lot of times I don't find enough shockwaves, so I just use a katana. Or maybe I'm playing a game right and I am using shockwaves, but we're getting to the point where like midway through the game, I've used a decent amount of my shockwaves. Now I have like a mask and 2. And then I have a choice of like a katana or 2 shockwaves. In that situation, I'm probably going to take the katana. I feel like that's probably going to be how I play out most of this season. Void mask and shockwaves is ideal. If I'm running low on shockwaves or not able to find enough shockwaves, the katana is better than having just 1 shockwave, I think. So that's my opinion on the mobility. I think all of these items are good for sure. Like I kind of hated on the katana a lot this season, but I still think it's very good. I just think that my opinion of it is lower than most people's opinion of it, and that's why I kind of talked about it a lot in this video. Let me know down in the comments below which mobility item you think is best or which ones you prefer to carry or how you would stack rank them. As always, if you did find this to be helpful, informative, interesting, give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.